All right, here we are. It's time for another edition of Jonesing for Football as the 2021 National Football League draft fast approaches. Bill Jones in my home whites. Cody Winstead. I'm in Dallas. Cody is in Philadelphia. See, this is proof that people from Dallas and people from Philly can actually get along and talk some football, right, young Cody?
Yeah, I live in Philadelphia, been here about 5 years, and they don't like people from Dallas here in Philly. I will
That's
just
why
say
I have
that.
not been there in a long time.
Yeah. You should probably stay away with your Cowboys fandom there. But no,
in fact, I got a little Cowboy star on my home white today.
That's nice. I've worn a Cowboy star here time to time around the city, and I get a lot of bad looks. I will say that. I will. They're always good to point it out to me with a little boo or something along those lines, but it's all in good fun.
Is it? I'm not sure if it is or not.
I hope
all
so.
Right. In the glory days of the WHIP radio station, WIP in Philadelphia, I went, it was back, I'm going back nearly 30 years now, that great Monday night football game, great for Eagles fans, when Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys came in there unbeaten and the Eagles won. Of course, the Cowboys got the payback, beating them in the playoffs in 1992. But I went and spent a week in Philadelphia back in the glory days of local television when we actually had money to go on the road and cover a regular season game and send a reporter and a camera crew to the opponent city and get the feel for the city. That was a great week I spent in Philadelphia. I enjoyed that immensely. Yeah.
What'd you do? Have a cheesesteak? Did you go to the art museum? What'd you do there?
We actually, we're trying to get a feel for the city. So we did stories in bars in Philly. And I remember one bar in Philly where the bartender or the owner of the bar, he had the cremated remains of his father, who was a huge Philadelphia fan, sitting on the behind the bar there, and he was fast to show that off. This is the greatest Philadelphia Eagles fan of all time right here, and he still watches every game. Anyway, so that's Philly for you, right?
No, very much so. I'm guessing you were straight South Philly right there, right down where everyone wears those Eagles green for sure.
All right. How about there's probably some needs. I know there's some needs for the Philadelphia Eagles as far as the linebacker position, front seven on defense. They've got some guys that are they got some gray beards on their front four, and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. And of course, the Cowboys are always here in Dallas looking for front seven guys. They got a defense that gave up the most points they've ever given up last year and around the league, as we also appeal to the rest of the National Football League. There's so much emphasis on offense and quarterbacks and receivers at the top of this draft, and the defense is getting left behind a little bit. But in our research, myself, inside let me get it here.
Show it to me.
Tangled up. The big green NFL draft scouting notebook, where we are in search of 5-star players. I am discovering maybe not that many 5-star players, but I am noticing maybe some 4 stars and some 3 stars who might actually be able to contribute on down the road in this league.
I'm with you. We got some front seven guys. Normally the edge rushers, the guys that get to the quarterback, they've been at the top of the draft, in the top 10, disrupting everything. Everyone loves to have one of those guys. Not many of those guys this year, at least, especially at the top. I wanted to know from you, Bill Jones, who really sticks out to you? Pass rushers, linebackers, we're hitting front seven here. Which guys really jump out to you?
Well, you're right. There's not a Chase Young in this draft. There's not a Bosa brother in this draft. But I think what's really intriguing is that there, in my opinion, there are a bunch of linebackers who, some would be top half of the first round type guys. There's not a handful, but there's two or three there. And then I think there's a bunch that will go in the top 100 who are going to be really good linebackers in this league. So let's start with the linebackers. And obviously Micah Parsons out of Penn State. is a guy that just jumps off the tape when you look at him. And he jumped out of the gym at his pro day, or at least he ran out of the gym with a 4.36 and a 159 10-yard split at his pro day and a sub-7 cone drill, which is what you expect out of a guy like that. But Parsons, of course, he opted out, did not play in 2020 for Penn State, but was an All-American consensus the year before with 109 tackles, 14 for loss, and 5 sacks. There are some question marks as well for Micah Parsons, but he's the guy that a lot of people consider to be the top guy in this draft defensively. However, I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame is another linebacker who is one of those hybrid guys who's come from the safety position in high school to become a quality linebacker in college. And you see him out in space a lot, even covering the nickel. And another guy that I like, and we can get further into him, is the guy from Tulsa. Now, Owusu-Koramoah won the Butkus Award. He won the Butkus Trophy for Notre Dame last year. Every other defensive award was won by this guy from Tulsa, Zaven Collins, 6'5", 259 pounds, and he won the Bednarik Award. He won the Lombardi. He won the Nagurski. Just give all the hardware to the guy from Hominy, Oklahoma, who is the valedictorian of his class, a class of 47 kids in Hominy, Oklahoma, and then excelled at Tulsa.
Well, that's a good combination, right? He gets all the hardware on the field, and he also wins valedictorian in high school. That's some good stuff right there. I was doing some reading on Collins, and I'm sure you probably read similar articles, Bill Jones. His extensive gymnastics career growing up.
That's right.
Star gymnast growing up. And it just shows like his athleticism kind of off the charts. NFL Network had his pro day at Tulsa. And I would say the amazing words people use to describe Zaven Collins, probably as high as anybody on all the pro days I've watched. Just everyone was so high on him, and his combination of size and speed. It was fun to watch. Let
me ask you about Zaven. When you look at him, because what's interesting on this is, you see all the mock drafts, and you go back to the quarterback position. Okay, until San Francisco made the trade, and word didn't leak out, it rushed out that Mac Jones might be San Francisco's pick. In the mock draft community, Mac Jones was not considered even to be a top 10 pick. And now all of a sudden he's in the mix at number 3. Well, take it to the linebacker, Zaven Collins. He's won all these awards. You look at him, he just, his measurables are terrific. He's got the length. I wonder if maybe he might even be able, and he showed it a little bit on tape, the ability to bend and maybe be an edge rusher in this league. A creative defensive coordinator. Even if you have a veteran starting linebacking crew right now, you're going to find ways to use him in so many ways, even in his rookie season. Could he be in the mix for a team like the Cowboys as high as number 10 in this draft, young Cody?
I mean, it seems possible. The questions you ask are the ones that NFL teams have to be asking themselves. If he can rush the passer, well, that changes everything about him. He goes from probably a 20s pick in the 20s to could be a pick in the teens, or even down near the top 10 where the Cowboys are. I like him. It looks like he has the skills to do that. What do you think? I mean, you give me your take because no one's higher on him than you.
Well, the question I would have, okay, there's a level of competition, okay, and does he have as a run defender, as a linebacker, does he have the strength to take on offensive linemen, shed blocks, and get to the ball carrier? I think there can be a question about that. There's just the thing that intrigues me the most about him is that length that he has, being 6'4" and 7/8. And I mean, think about Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory is a guy, he came in, I don't know what he weighs now, but basically around 245 pounds. about the same height as Zaven Collins. When I see Collins be able to lower his shoulder, bend, and get around a left tackle and get to the quarterback, that's what makes me think, okay, he can do all this other stuff as a linebacker. He's got playmaking ability as a pass defender. He's smart. He appears to be able to read and react and get around offensive linemen to make tackles sideline to sideline. But if you add that element where he could develop into an edge rusher in this league, I got no problem at all taking him at number 10. The problem from a measurable standpoint, a lot of times what you look for in an edge rusher, you want to see that cone drill. You want to be able to see, can he go a sub-7 on a cone drill? And he did, by choice, he did not do the cone drill at his pro day at Tulsa. And so that's what's frustrating me about him right now.
So his versatility will definitely be the key. I think when you compare him to the other linebackers, you mentioned Parsons and Owusu Karamoa, he seems to be in that group. I don't know how I would stack those guys, but that's what we're saying is if Collins can be an edge rusher, then he kind of jumps ahead of the group, one would think, if he has that ability. I know you sent me a message that said the Cowboys were looking at him potentially at 10, Bill Belichick and the Patriots really like Collins as well. So there's your versatility. You know, if Bill Belichick likes you, you can probably play multiple positions and he's got a vision for you. So that seems like Collins' future right there would be pretty bright in the league.
Yeah, and Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator in Dallas, even if you've got Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, there's a lot of Leighton Vander Esch qualities about Zaven Collins as far as, you know, that Brian Urlacher type linebacker. I hesitate to throw that around because I think that all of the players are different in their own way. And even when you look at this linebacker class, those top 3 linebackers that I mentioned, they're all different. And different teams are going to have different opinions about them because of how they might be utilized. Parsons is a more traditional linebacker, I think, with just elite athleticism. You know, we should mention he has had a couple of off the field things that he's been linked to, and including a hazing incident and something in high school. But, you know, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, you listen to him talk and you're like, okay, this guy, you want him on your football team in every way. He's different than the other guys in that, I mean, there's sometimes I'd be looking at the tape going, okay, where's he lining up? Well, he's out in space with a slot that is lined up way to the perimeter, and he's able to handle it. You talk about some of the hardest hits that I've seen from players, defensive players on film this year leading up to this draft. Owusu-Koramoah has delivered some of them. I would not have a problem with any team taking him as high as number 10 in the draft.
Yeah. Yep. Let me give you my sleeper, Bill Jones, if you don't mind. Okay. I got a sleeper linebacker, and he's from your neck of the woods. His name is Garrett Wallow, linebacker at TCU. I'm not sure how much studying you've done on him, but I've seen him projected in the 4th or 5th round. He measured 6'1", 220. He ran a 4.65 40-yard dash. His shuttle time and 3-cone were pretty impressive. 4.12 in the shuttle and a 6.87 3-cone. His vert was 32 and his broad was 10.2. So overall, a pretty solid athlete. And I think he should be higher than a 4th or 5th round pick. Something I liked about his workout, kind of like you mentioned in some of those top tier linebackers, they have flexibility. They're former safeties. So Garrett Wallow did linebacker and safety drills at his pro day just to show that he can actually guard and defend linebacker or running backs coming out of the backfield, which is a huge part of playing a linebacker. Bill, we were talking about this before we started rolling. It's almost unfair what linebackers are being asked to do these days. They've got to take on 300-pound linemen in the run game. And then they also have to guard Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara in the pass game. And like, there aren't many human beings on this planet who have the physical skills to be able to do both. I think Wallow could be one of those guys. And Bill Jones, I've got a win stat. It involves Garrett Wallow. He has had 13 double-digit tackle games in his last 22, so the last 2 seasons. This guy led the conference, led your Big 12 in tackles the last 2 years, and he was first team all conference. When you're watching him on YouTube or you're watching film, whatever you're watching, dude's a missile. He said he's always well prepared, and he thanks Gary Patterson for that, for always knowing what's coming from the offense. And so I like Wallow as, instead of a day 3, which it seems like he's being projected as right now, to be kind of a day 2 guy. Really no huge concerns on my eyes. Size, speed, durability, those are like the normal red flags. Wallow didn't have any of those. He kind of fits the bill as kind of one of those hybrid linebackers who can do it all. So I really like Garrett Wallow as a sleeper, someone to keep your eye on if your team's looking for a linebacker in day 2.
I agree. And I think in a normal year, when you didn't have so many linebackers, he would be a 3rd rounder for sure, even though I'm seeing, as you have, the projections of 5th or 6th round. And I also think that teams value the linebacker position more because of what you're talking about, those hybrid guys, and they're in nickel and dime, 70 to 75% of the time. So you would consider a linebacker like him, who's going to start off probably in sub packages, you consider him to be one of your starters. You have more than 11 starters on defense now. And if he can come in and make the transition, and it appears he can from an intelligence standpoint, well coached by Gary Patterson at TCU, I can see him going in the 3rd round for sure. Some other linebackers of note: Nick Bolton, Missouri. I mean, this guy is a tackling machine at Missouri. He's another local product from here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Frisco Lone Star High School, which is right in the Cowboys' backyard. And he's a guy that's projected by some to be early 2nd round pick. The guy that's getting all the love right now from Kentucky, Jamin Davis. Have you checked him out at all? I mean, he's got, you talk about athleticism, a 42 vert, 11 broad, and a 153 10-yard split. Jamin Davis and Baron Browning from Ohio State is another guy that I got my eye on as maybe a 3rd round guy.
Yeah, Jamin Davis. He wasn't on. I look at a handful of mock drafts, a handful of prospect ratings and all that online, and all of a sudden he was up at like top 20 or top 30 in Daniel Jeremiah's list after his pro day, and so I went back and watched him as well. He looks like he's got all the physical tools to play in the league. I'll be interested to see how high he goes because, like you mentioned, he is the fastest riser on basically any board right now.
All right, let's switch to up front and edge rushers. There aren't many edge rushers, as we talked about at the top, that intrigue me as a top half of the 1st round type guy, but maybe there's one for you.
Yeah, I was looking for someone on the line, someone who I could have get to the pass rusher or get to the passer, really disrupt the run game, create havoc for the quarterback. And the guy that I liked when I was doing some reading, the guy that stood out was Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher from Miami, an absolute incredible story. We'll start at his pro day where he absolutely blew away the NFL personnel. Measurable 6'5", 260. So this guy's a monster right there. He ran a 4.56 40-yard dash. He also jumped 36 vert and a 10.5 broad jump. I went back and looked it up. His 40 and his vert would have been tops among defensive linemen last year. So elite athleticism. This year at Miami, tied for 2nd in the ACC in sacks and tackles for loss. He did that at his only season at the U after he transferred from UCLA. I was watching some of his films. I was really impressed with his effort. He's running down the field, making tackles 20, 25 yards down the line, down the field. And he's sacking quarterbacks and disrupting stuff in the backfield as well. So his effort was a really, really caught my eye. And now to the thing that makes his story really interesting, Bill Jones. And I know you know a little bit about this. He was at UCLA for 2 years and he gave up football. He basically said he doesn't want to play. He retired because of concussion. So he had a couple concussions at UCLA. He actually had a freak moped injury. And so the combination of injuries, he decided to retire. And so he enrolled at Los Angeles Community College to study music production, music, one of his passions. And he also worked at his dad's law office. And so he did that for a little bit. And he said he lost a bunch of weight. And people started, he was he didn't even know who he was. He just is a completely different person. And he realized that he missed football. So he recommitted to football. He transferred from UCLA to Miami, and
just down the road.
Just down the road. Exactly. He decided to get away, a fresh start. I don't blame the guy. And I've got a soundbite. Here's a little bit of Phillips on his journey. Boom, toss the soundbite. Here's the bite, Bill Jones. Everybody's path to success isn't linear. There are ups and downs. I think all that gave me a better look, gave me a chip on my shoulder, gave me a deeper appreciation for what the game is and what it brings to me. So I never lost my passion for football. I just needed a little kick in the butt. So that's the end of it. All right.
So let me ask you this. How many defensive coaches in this league have scratched him off as a first round possibility because of that story you just told about him? Not just the concussion part of it. There's a lot of medical people who will say, I'm not so sure because of the medical aspect of it, but the fact that he has all these other interests and how much does he love football? How much will coaches and scouts in this league scratch him off? Well, we can't spend first round money on this guy because we don't know whether he's going to be here tomorrow.
I don't think very many, truthfully, because, and here's why I say that. Listen to the dude, go listen to the dude, go talk to the guy. I guarantee he will win you over right there. And when you watch his tape, you'll realize this dude can also play. Just quickly, let me recap. So in 5 years, he went from a top high school recruit to playing at UCLA, to giving up football, to studying music, to transferring to Miami, dominating the ACC, and now he's going to be a top 15 pick. That he's done more in his last 5 years than I have in my 5 years. I think it's a great story, and I think he's going to be a good player in the league.
Well, and the other part of that is when you look at all of the edge rusher types, and maybe I'm not going to put linebackers necessarily into it, but I think that he is more ready to play right now in the NFL than virtually every other defensive player that we're going to look at here. And so even if he's got the concussion issues, even if he doesn't have a 10-year career, you're drafting him in the first round for the next 5 years. And then we see what happens after that. And you want production from him from the get-go. And I think he's going to give it to you from the very start of his career.
Yep. I'm with you. I was just really impressed. It seems like the kid's maturity is just off the charts. And so when you're getting a new guy worried about the transition from college into the league, nothing you're going to ask this guy to do is going to be more difficult than what he's already overcome, stuff that he's already experienced, and stuff that he's fought through. And so I really love Jalen Phillips. I can't wait to hear his name called in the first round. And I wrote this down, Bill Jones. He was a Chargers fan growing up, and he models his game off of Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa. So maybe there's a team, the Chargers have the number 13 pick. Maybe that could be.
Oh, there you go. Right there. We've already got him ticketed, and that would be perfect. And he would be very happy. He might have a 10-year career in this league if he can be near Hollywood, right?
That's fair. Yeah, you're right.
That's right. So advantage LA teams there. All right. Elsewhere, How about Quiddy Pay, who from Michigan, 6'2.5", 261 pounds. He killed it at his pro day. Not as much production. He did have 2 years ago 6.5 sacks. He is a sturdily built player who is, I project him as a left defensive end, even though apparently he's got a video out there. He didn't do the cone drill because of a left quad injury at his pro day, but apparently there's a video out there of him doing an unheard of 6-3-7 cone drill. And I want to see that. So he does have the athleticism and the twitchiness to get to the quarterback, but just the way he plays, and maybe it's because he was coached to stop the run first. You didn't see him pin his ears back and go after the quarterback that much on tape. But he checks all the boxes as far as being intelligent. In fact, he was a finalist for the Senior Class Award, which is the academic Heisman. All those intangibles that I call tangibles when it comes to making the transition into the league, he fits, and he would be a very solid pick. But I just don't know how much sack production he will have in the league.
Yeah, Bill Jones, do you think he's a pick around, could be picked in the top 10 or just outside of the top 10? Or you think he's more of a guy in the 20s? Or
I think more probably mid to late first round, probably. But I think that most of the projections are in that range. But there could be a team that really likes him and take him earlier than that. From my perspective, a Cowboys perspective, I would want to see if I'm drafting him, I would want to see more production getting to the quarterback on tape, and I haven't seen that. Otherwise, there's some other guys that are mid-round guys that intrigue me a little bit. The defensive tackle position, the guy getting all the love. There's two guys getting all the love. Christian Barmore from Alabama, who, if you just go off hit the last half of his last year at Alabama, he's a top 5 pick. I mean, that guy was a beast. But there was some inconsistent play prior to that. And another guy out of Washington, Levi Onwuzurike, who is from Allen High School, Kyler Murray's alma mater, right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, North Texas area. I like him a lot. And I know Bucky Brooks has him listed as his number 1 defensive tackle. So those are 2 D tackles that have first round grades from a lot of people.
Yep. Well, Barmore, I've seen and read and watched him. It looks like, kind of like you said, if he had a little bit more production, a little bit more consistency, he wouldn't be in that mid-20 spot where people have him. I've actually seen him somewhere, like could be even into the second round. But I believe he's young, only a sophomore coming out. So you would think you'd be drafting a little bit based on potential there. And who knows, maybe he could turn into a guy with like top 10 production once he grows up a little bit and kind of ages and puts everything together, that he could be a real steal. Maybe if someone could get him in the second round.
Yeah. And he was the defensive MVP of the national championship game. There are some other, I'm looking from a Cowboys perspective, and Dan Quinn, I'm looking for an inside guy who can be a 3 technique, even if it's in mid round where you're developing him. He can be a pass rusher to start off his career. Let me throw a couple of names at you. Those types who would be, he got Grady Jarrett in the 5th round out of Clemson when he was at Atlanta. Dan Quinn did. And here's a guy. Have you heard of Jalen Twyman out of Pitt? Okay. Jalen Twyman, he opted out in 2020, but as an inside rusher, wearing Aaron Donald's number 97, apparently Aaron Donald is his mentor of sorts. He had 10.5 sacks and was second team All-American. He is only 6'1.5", 301 pounds. He had 40, count them, 40 bench reps of 225 pounds in his pro day. And you see that on film. The other measurables are not there necessarily. And apparently he had a left ham injury. And so that doesn't show up. He could be one of those, doesn't show up as far as his pro day measurables go. But if you just look at the tape of him and his ability to manhandle offensive linemen with those strong hands that he has and be able to get to the quarterback, Jalen Twyman could be like a third-round guy to keep an eye on out of the University of Pittsburgh.
I like that. I'm going to write that guy. I'm going to write Jalen Twyman down. I'm looking at
Go watch Jalen Twyman. And I'm going to give you one more out of Louisiana Tech. This is a 6'3", 284-pound. The other thing I like about Twyman is you look at him and he's got the arm length. I mean, he measured at 32 inches. That's a contrast to this guy I'm about to tell you. Milton Williams has shorter arms, but he tested unbelievably well. Milton Williams II, Louisiana Tech, had 10 sacks in his career as an inside rusher over the last 2 years, 10 sacks. He 34 bench reps, so he's strong. A 38.5 vertical, a 6.87 cone drill, and ran a 4.63 40 at 284 pounds. I give you Milton Williams. He's not the second. He is Milton Williams the third out of La Tech and Crowley High School in Texas.
Okay. What round is he projected in? Where have
he
you
is
seen
projected? Let's see. Dane Brugler has him rated as his number 4 defensive tackle, the 70th overall player. So we're talking third round right there for Milton Williams.
Okay.
Pro Football Focus has him as their 5th rated defensive tackle, number 75. So he's not really a sleeper. He is a guy on people's radar, but a lot of people, since he played at Louisiana Tech, maybe haven't heard of Milton Williams III. You are about to hear about Milton Williams III, and you heard it right here on Jonesing for Football.
I love it. And if he's not on people's radar, he should be after running what was it, 4.6 at 280 pounds. That's
yes.
Okay. Yeah. That gets you on people's radar right there. And
there
40
you go.
bench reps. Is that what you said? 40?
No, that was 34.
34.
It was my
40
pick
for
guy.
Jalen.
Jalen Twyman had 40 bench reps. All right.
Love
it's
it.
fun. See, I love digging up these guys, and you dig up enough of them, you're going to hit on some eventually.
There you go. Hey, your specialty is sleepers, Bill Jones. You have you found quite the gems in your day. So maybe Jalen Twillman is the next one.
Twyman, get this name right. It's Twyman. Right. It's not Twillman. Come on.
Sorry about that,
brother. All right, what do you want to talk about next time here on Jonesing for Football?
Well, we just hit front 7, so now we're going to shift our focus to DBs. Let's talk some defensive backs. There are some guys who could go in the top 10 here. A couple that I love, a couple that you love. We'll break them all down on the next edition of Jonesing for Football.
He just did the out. Way to go, young Cody. There you go. All right. Very good. We'll see you next time on Jonesing for Football.